All right. Thank you for having me here. And this is really interesting. I was listening at the backstage. I listened to the panel discussion. So as briefly introduced by Christine, I've been doing data analytics over a period of time. And the one thing which is I recently related to people analytics caught my a lot of attention, because we have been doing for customer analytics and for product analytics and for campaign marketing analytics. But what I found was if we don't really use AI and analytics, right, and if we, especially for people analytics, the impact is real. And so this session is very broad. I mean, the very basic introduction level. We're not going to go through the detailed technical, but it just kind of, share what I have learned over the years related to the people analytics. So can you see the next one? All right. So we say technology and AI, and we have seen so much progress and penetration into everywhere and into the analytics. But quite often we'll say that if that's a technology just for the sake of technology, and where it doesn't take us to any happy place, and always say, like we really need to bring people along, especially this is to do this usage of the AI, usage of the technology going to generate a real impact to people's life. So today I will cover the 4 different areas. And then the first, just say what kind of progress have been made in, advancing people analytics. Then I would like to call out 4 dimensions. And when we do HR and the people analytics, we call risk or ethics related. Briefly talk about just some examples and in the risk, and also what kind of reward if we do it right. So the last thing is how to balance the risk and the reward, to help us to use AI for people analytics. So the first thing, and I'm not sure how many people actually here and are familiar with HR analytics, but in the HR analytics went through some basic stages and before, we hit the wall, and we say, there we get the metrics right, and then we create some benchmarks, and we started putting the scorecard and the dashboard and using the traditional survey. However, so when we, later we started introducing and we got to analytics, then we start looking at the correlation and what is the causality between one attribute or one reason and for the other. And also we started to predict, okay, what's going to happen. So that's actually, it happened in the last 20, 30 years. But in the last few years, and advanced so quickly, and because we are introduced so many of this automatic digital enabled service and feedback. And we, from the HR side, and started collecting emails and started using the network communication to monitor. And this data is available. So then from the HR system, and also they, and also a lot of program enabled company to collect the travel information and your mobile devices, your location, your mobility. So then they'll introduce you the well-being, and when you're sick and what kind of health situation you have. And even during the COVID-19 time, and there's the video conferencing record. And then so before we just look at people, but now you have video conferencing and you have audio conferencing, and also people started recording each of the session. So that's then a lot of technology have been introduced to use image recognition and facial recognition as such. So that's where I say a lot of really advanced technology has penetrated in this space. So the 4 dimensions, I like to call out when we do things, and we really need to, as a practitioner from data analytics side, but also overall, we need to think about are there any bias? I'll talk through these 4 different dimensions of bias, and that's the first thing. Then the privacy. Then also we have the security, and we're here talking about, and the most important, and what kind of impact for people. So the bias, and so there are many, we for us, and the bias is there from the historical data. When we use data analytics and then use AI to predict people's behavior, and we actually automatically collect the data. and from the historical data or the behavior we have. And then, so that is the way actually, we need to ask the question. And so have we looked into the data we collected and through the collection process and through, are there any bias towards certain segments? And the second part, we will say, we are using algorithm to treat the data and to make prediction. Are there any bias and exist within the algorithm itself? And doing how we're going to evaluate. So that is if you are going to buy a ready-made, which we already heard but many panelists talk about, is a black box system. And so they will say, look, do you have a recommendation system you purchase? Do you really understand? And how do you measure or even to look at it? Is there any bias hidden in this black box technology you purchase? So if you made all these steps forward and you say, look, I understand there are bias, and how do you treat them? So how do you treat them and correct them? So this is the first thing I would say. This is on the bias side. And the second part, we say privacy. So I think this is, for us, trust is really important. So trust is built on what kind of transparency we provide to people, and also how when we collect the data, everybody is using your device, and how we collect the data, and do we have the disclosure terms and protection policy in place? So if you have this, and now come inside, you get a consent from people to collect their data and to use it, and you got to know who has the access to this data. Are these encrypted? And also there, if people ask for, say, I want to opt out from this survey, and I want to opt out from this, the competition, and can you do that? And so do you have the technology and also the system and the people to take care of that? So that's it for, in Europe, you can have this as a forget rules, and how we're going to have all this. This is all related to people's privacy. Privacy is not just a PII, which is them. So, whether do we have the information about them, this is, personal sensitive information is not only about that, it's the entire process. So the third part, and I would say security. So security, this is a much broader, and so I won't cover too much, but it's what everyone need to start to pay attention. Even we're using a data analytics people and an AI practitioner, and I would say where the data is stored, and also if the technology or data collection is through another third party, is this within the network, and or do we have the sign-in? And also, are we trained if that is, the protocols and the security process? So this is integration as well for the technology department. So for all of this, and now we really need to be integrated for us to be aware. So the last of the four is we call as a people impact. So what's the purpose of them, an intention? And when you start collecting this data, and you started doing the analysis, and so you have to really communicate, right? And then you have to really, document it as well. So that is the people will say, all right, and we know you have a good intention. If you ask us to say, we have the health system, we have record and our sick leave, and it's not going to impact my, the incentive scheme, and also my performance, and this is for the learning and for the people well-being. So, and also you really have to, when you say it, you have to do it. So that's the part where how we're going to control the data to be used by the AI system. And also we need to observe that it's a sentiment from the employee. And if we use that data to do the work, and how we deploy it, and how we use this data to impact their daily life. So that is, again, I would say the AI technology, this is correctly designed by people and used by people and used for people, have to have the good intention. And we need to have the entire four of these aspects be covered together. So some examples and I'll quickly cover. So this is recommendation. Everybody actually very familiar with this. Is CV, the recruitment engine built by the Amazon. And this is a data bias towards female in the candidate pool. And so that is the one thing it's a gender bias. But actually we found this in a lot of a small project we have interacted and we practiced. It's not only for the gender bias. And then when we have the recommendation for the CV process quickly to hire data scientists, but you're going to find that is what the system has been recommended to us is from a basic, let's say, is a business analyst, which is different to what we are looking for. And that's a lot of historical data, and where this is the right segment, and this is the right balanced data for us to build to use, and we need to ask the question. And so the next one is the risks in impact. So the risk in impact, and so one of the example we saw is adapted from a churn model for customer churn, and there is a small project was done for predict the employee churn. Right, so employee churn, and when we started doing that, and there's thing is where you use the previous behavior and to detect this person will churn and will leave the organization, and so the model can be okay and can be accurate to a certain level, but how you use this model, and the managers and say, this person actually is going to leave us, and instead of say, look, how we're going to help them to learn and how we're going to retrain them. And or this is say some of the managers decided, so I'm not going to put much effort and it's going to leave us, and it's become I think it is a consciousness of how you use the output from the analytics and the AI result and recommendation, and so this is really important and create a big impact for their employee. So some use cases that we see it had done really, really well. And this is actually is a public known one, and using the sensors and to the temperature, and also related to people's work productivity. So this is the use case that I would say, this is really helped to improve the efficiency. And this is something where really good use of AI. And another one, which is a very good use case, and this is a very well-known model, and there's a promoter flywheel. So this is we link the customer actually experience and with employee experience, and we tried this one on one of the call center. Actually worked really well, and then say, look, if we happy customer and happy employee, and then actually we call the positivity is contagious. So that's when we started working on we look at, okay, the loyal customer, they have been engaging with this group of employees, and what did right with this, what kind of training we have provided with this group of employee, and we provided this is a positive, the promoters of flywheel. This is a really good example, and if we do it right. So the last thing, which is just a quickly highlight, is people analytics, a lot of technology or product out there, and you can already just blindly say, HR and department and say, I really don't understand what it is, but I buy it anyway. And of course, I hope not many of them that there is not only our HR's the responsibility. Actually, there is a really, really critical the balance between risks and also the reward. And then we have to combine all this, bring everybody on the journey from beginning. This is to do with, you have the risk and you have the cybersecurity, you have information, the technology department. And then plus, sometimes we even can create impact for the customer promotion score. And so this is entirely is equation, people plus data and technology and process have to be together. So yeah, and I think hopefully that's catch the 15 minutes time. And thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thanks so much, Catherine. I have a question for you. Do you think that the way that people analytics are used, and say also the potential risks and benefits, are any different for SMEs as compared to large enterprises? Say, would you expect smaller enterprises to use the people analytics in a different way?
So I don't really think that is much different, but I think for SMEs and the people tend to quickly buy on the small technology very quickly and easily. And then with large organizations, the impact is much, much more. But for the SME, I think one thing is a benefit is the size is small and actually your control is better. So you are in better situation compared to large organization to control the impact and to bring the team together.
Thanks, that makes sense. In terms of the risks you spoke of, what's your recommendation for educating HR on these risks? Do you think that adequate training is built into the popular products in a way that can be digested by the HR members, or is more required?
I think it's not really. I haven't really seen many very well built, but now I attend a few the HR forum and a discussion. More and more, they realize that when they learn, they made a mistake, and then they started to learning. And I think it's really important to push from the other end and say when you introduce a new technology, and you need to help people to understand what is hidden behind, and what is the data they are using, and also what's the process and what's the impact consequences. So they will own the part where, implementation, and they will own the part with the domain knowledge. And but you have to be working, early on, introduce this more background information to them.
Great. Well, thank you so very much, Catherine. It was really lovely to have you.